All right, let's dive right into this. We're doing a forensic audit of a source document's claims about a really strange pattern of deaths. Now, the mainstream media usually labels this a conspiracy theory, but the source material we're looking at, it calls it a statistical impossibility that absolutely demands a closer look.
So, it all starts with this number. The entire argument in the source document is built around a list of over 50 people. We're talking associates, bodyguards, investigators, all connected in some way to the Clintons, and all of whom died under very mysterious or violent circumstances.
And that leads us right to the core question the text is asking. Is this just a crazy, unbelievable string of bad luck? A series of unrelated tragedies? Or is it the signature of something much more deliberate, something systemic, as the source alleges?
To even begin to explain this pattern, the text lays out a framework it calls the systemic silencing protocol. It's described almost like an immune response for a vast, powerful network.
Now, according to the source, this isn't about emotion or revenge. It's described as a cold, mechanical, almost automatic response. When a person becomes a threat or, a broken node in the network, this protocol supposedly activates to just sever that connection, all to protect the larger system.
The source argues this protocol doesn't just happen randomly. It has very specific triggers, things like possessing sensitive financial data, threatening to testify, or being a direct link to a compromised figure like Jeffrey Epstein. It's presented as a really targeted response to very specific kinds of threats.
Okay, so let's dig into the first major case file the text presents to build its argument, the 1993 death of the White House Deputy Counsel, a man named Vince Foster.
Vince Foster wasn't some fringe player. He was deep in the inner circle, a lifelong friend, a former law partner who, according to the source, held the keys to the kingdom, specifically all the intimate details of the Whitewater scandal. He was, for all intents and purposes, the keeper of those early secrets.
And this is where we see two completely different stories collide. The official narrative, which was confirmed by multiple investigations, ruled Foster's death a suicide. The source document we're examining, it rejects that completely. It gives its own verdict, calling it an extraction, basically a staged murder to silence him.
Now, the source doesn't just make a wild claim and move on. It points to what it calls specific forensic and procedural problems with the official story. For instance, it claims the first witness on the scene saw no gun. It argues the body's position made no sense, suggesting it was moved. It alleges a so-called suicide note was a forgery found days later, and, critically, that files were taken from Foster's office before law enforcement could ever seal it.
Okay, now let's fast forward, way forward, almost 3 decades to 2022, and look at another case file the text highlights, Mark Middleton. He was a former special advisor to President Clinton with a very, very critical modern connection. According to the source, Middleton was the guy. He was the documented operational link between the Clinton White House and Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't just know him. Visitor logs show he was the one signing Epstein into the White House. He knew exactly what that relationship was all about firsthand.
And here we go again, right? We see that same conflicting pattern. The official narrative says suicide. The source document's verdict? A violent murder, one it claims was staged with, and I'm quoting here, overwhelming incompetence.
The source really builds its case here by arguing the physical evidence makes the official narrative almost impossible to believe. It points out that Middleton was found hanging from a tree, but he also had a shotgun wound to his chest, and the shotgun itself, reportedly found about 30 feet away. The source then notes that to keep anyone from looking too closely at these bizarre details, the crime scene files were sealed by a judge.
So the source really drives the point home by laying out this sequence. It frames the official story as a physical absurdity. I mean, just think about it. It's presented as this completely impossible chain of events, basically designed to mock the official ruling and call out what it sees as a brazen cover-up.
So, after laying out these individual cases, the source document zooms out. It connects Foster and Middleton back to a much bigger, overarching thesis about power, justice, and, well, immunity.
And here's the ultimate argument, that these deaths, when you look at them all together, they're not random. They're the signature of a ruthless cleanup operation. They reveal, according to this text, a two-tiered system of justice, where the rules that apply to you and me, they just don't apply to a certain protected class. And this quote from the text pretty much sums up its final, damning verdict. It paints a picture of a world divided between the livestock, who have to follow the law, and the Wardens, who operate completely above it,
shielded by what it calls Archonic immunity.
And that leaves us with the source's final, provocative question. It's not really an answer, but more of a challenge. By laying out all this data and this framework, the text is really asking us to think about the implications of a system that, it alleges, will protect its own managers at any and all costs.